Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Tech Talk. Today, we are going to present you a Tech Talk on spatio-temporal pattern of crime in Telangana state. And the main agenda for today is we are going to discuss about the spatio-temporal pattern and its analysis in crime. As we all know, there has been a lot of crime that has been occurring in various parts of the world. And all this data has been piled up into set of records. But then, if you want to make some informed decisions, someone should come and act on your data. So for the same reason, today we are going to present this concept. So we are going to use the crime statistics information and we are going to see the spatio-temporal pattern analysis on crime. And we are going to find the crime patterns and hotspots. And we are also going to see the spatiotemporal trends of various heads of crime. And we are also discussing about the crime reduction strategies for mitigating the crime. And it is very crucial for any crime, to deal with any crime, we need to work on the strategic analysis and tactical analysis. And by using this, the crime analyst will benefit by preparing proper strategies in order for mitigation of the crime. So let's understand few terminologies before we go ahead with crime analysis in GIS. What is a crime rate? So the number of crimes that are occurring with respect to population. If you take the ratio of crimes to the area of a population, then we calculate the crime rate by which we can understand, okay, in this area, what is the rate of crime for this much of population. And incidence of crime. Incidence of crime. Let us discuss what is an incident of crime, which means one single occurrence of a case or an event is called as a incident of crime. And incidence of crime is the number of cases or incidents that are occurring with respect to a given population in an area is called as incidence of crime. And the population density, which means the number of people living in a given area per unit land area is called as population density. That can be like per kilometer or per square kilometer. So you can give the area as per your requirement and you can measure the population density. And the crucial feature here for analyzing our crime, we are going to take the spatial relationship into picture. Spatial relationship is about understanding the location of the crime and finding out how it is related. And with that, we are going to understand our spatial relationship concept. And then we can also use bivariate relationship to understand and to also quantify the relationship between different variables. That we will be seeing during our demonstration. I'll explain you more in detail when we are doing the demonstration on crime analysis. So the other analysis which we have to understand when we are working with any kind of spatial analysis is the spatial statistical analysis. And one of the commonly used method in spatial statistic analysis is regression analysis. And what do we mean by this regression analysis and what is its importance? This regression analysis is basically a technique which helps us to understand the relationship between two variables. If one variable is impacting the other variable, we can understand that by using regression analysis. And what are the common types of regression analysis, like where generally we use this regression analysis is, I've given you certain examples here. let us suppose, basically when we finish our graduation and when we are employed, okay, so our earnings are based on what? Are they based on our educational qualification? Because obviously there will be a difference in the pay if you're doing your bachelor's, if you're doing your master's, and if you're doing your doctorate. So what is the kind of relationship you have on your earnings based on your education? In the similar way, most of the people will put on weight based on their eating habits. So is your weight dependent on the eating habits and the health, on the habits that you regularly have? So if you are able to identify this is the reason for this, then you will be able to find a solution for every problem. That is where we take the concept of regression analysis in almost every scenario and find out the root cause of the problems. And one of the commonly used terminologies in regression analysis is dependent and independent variables. Dependent variables are the variables which we are trying to understand. In the other case, just I told you, dependent variable, we are putting on weight. So this is the dependent variable. And independent variable, what is the reason for putting on weight is because of the eating habits, which is your independent variable. I'm just telling you a common example so that everybody will be able to relate this who are not from GIS. That is the reason I'm giving you a basic example. So, and there are like various regression methods that are available in our ArcGIS environment. And one of the commonly used regression methods is OLS regression analysis. This is the best known regression analysis where everybody would be using it. And so by using this, we can understand or predict the dependency between two variables. In the similar fashion, we have another regression model called as exploratory regression model. So this regression model, using this, we can understand like if one variable is dependent on what are the other parameters in which it is being dependent. And when we are doing crime analysis, we generally do hotspot analysis to find out what are the areas where the crime is occurring very often and where are the areas where there is no crime. So with this, we will understand where we can deploy more police people in order to reduce the crime. So before we go ahead and deploy our resources, we can model this, we can do our mapping, perform analysis, and see what are the areas of the crime, and then accordingly we can deploy our resources. So let us understand the correlation between variables here. So generally, if you say like one variable is dependent on the other variable, then we say that there is a correlation, a relation between two different variables here, which means the other case when I told you an example of is your weight dependent on your health habits? So for which, if you're 100% sure that your weight is based on the eating health habits, then you can see this kind of perfect positive correlation where the correlation is 1. And which means both the variables which are taken on x-axis and y-axis are relating together, and that is the reason you're seeing a straight line here where your data points are plotted up on the trend line. So this is a perfect positive correlation. And in the similar fashion, there can be some small deviations in your data point on the trend line. Then if there is only small deviation in that, then it is a high positive correlation, which is like 80% it is matching, and we can definitely say that there is a positive correlation. And low positive correlation, if you see here, the data points are scattered, more scattered, which means there is only 30% of possibility to say that your weight is dependent on your health habits. So I'm just telling you this one by relating an example so that you would understand better. And if you see here, the data points are scattered completely throughout your graph, which means there is no correlation between the two variables that we're discussing about. So how we have seen the positive correlationship, in the similar way, if there is the data points are falling from diagonally from the top level to the bottom level, then it is a perfect negative correlation, which is like -1. And if you have data points scattered here and there and it is negatively inclined, then it is high negative correlation. And in the similar fashion, if you have data points scattered negatively inclined, then it is a low negative correlation. So if you have to understand that the model is perfect and it can be used, or you can conclusively say that this is the reason because of people are putting on weight. If you have to relate that, then you have to see that you have a positive correlation. If there is a negative correlation, we can straight away say that the variables are not matching and they're not dependent on each other and they're completely independent of each other. So let's understand what is the process that generally anybody will follow when they're doing this spatio-temporal analysis. So what is this spatio, what is this temporal, and what is this analysis? So spatio is nothing but our spatial information, which is nothing but our geographic information or the coordinate information in which the crime is occurring. And temporal is nothing but your time, the date of occurrence of the crime or the time of occurrence of the crime or the year in which the crime has occurred. So temporal refers to your time. So you have your geographic location when the crime occurred. Temporal information says that when the time has occurred, and spatial information tells at which location the crime has occurred. So you're going to correlate this information and empower this with using GIS, and then you're going to prepare various spatio-temporal analysis maps which will help the decision makers to take better decisions. If you see here, the process of how we are going to do the analysis on crime or any kind of spatial analysis is, the first and foremost thing and the very crucial part of any analysis is the data. So how you collect the data? Do you collect the data, the primary data, or you go and collect the data from authorized departments, the police departments and all, or you collect the data using the reports they publish? So you collect the information and then there will be a lot of information that is available. So you have to prepare the data that will help you to perform your analysis. So you're collecting the data from various sources and then you're preparing the data for your analysis. Once you have your data, the next step is to plot the data, to map the data and see how your data is distributed. And then for understanding how it can be used for the decision makers, you have to examine how your data is distributed on your map. And then you perform various analysis based on your requirement. And then you will evaluate the model based on your correlations or the coefficients based on the model that you do the analysis with. So you have various correlations that you can come across and you can conclusively say that this is correlated to each other. And then you will utilize your results to help a stakeholder understand that this variable is dependent on the other variable. So how is this going to use? First thing is we are going to gather the data. Once we gather the data, we are going to do our analysis by using a suitable method after plotting it. And then the significant results we are going to communicate to the stakeholder. So in our demonstration today, we have taken this information, which is like a crime in Telangana. So this is basically a report published by a crime investigation department from State Crime Records Bureau. So every year they'll publish one book of this stating what are the crimes that are occurring in each and every district in Telangana. So we have used this as a source for doing today's analysis. Okay, and this data is basically taken from crime investigation department. So we'll see more about this in our demonstration. So what are the strategies that will help for mitigating the crime? So as I told you, we can perform hotspot analysis, which means we can identify where the crime is occurring more, where the crime is occurring less, based on which you can deploy your police where there are more crimes. So you will have a proper planning before you do the deployment. And then focus deterrence. So focus deterrence is nothing but a problem-oriented violence reduction strategy, which generally any police department would follow to mobilize their police people in order to ensure that the law is enforced. Okay, and proactive policing. So proactive policing is nothing but you're not deploying the police after a crime has occurred. You're planning ahead of time based on your analysis, and then you're deploying your resources. So this is your proactive policing and building community trust. Obviously, you will earn the trust of the citizens if the government is taking preventive actions rather than going with a reactive approach after the crime has occurred. We are going ahead with an approach with where there is a proper planning, and then you're going to balance it out your police with the uh, places where there is more occurrence of crime. And for today's demonstration, like we have taken like crime in Telangana for 2020 by State Crime Records Bureau, and it is developed by Crime Investigation Department. In the similar way, we have taken from for 2019 and 2018. So let us see like what is the data that we have in this crime in Telangana in 2020. So if you see here, so every year when they publish this data, they will publish the data based on the districts. So here in 2020, like what are the districts they have in Telangana, and they will actually have different heads under which the crime is occurring. So now I am showing you the percentage distribution under different crime heads like bodily offenses, property offenses, and white collar offenses. So for finding out the percentage change of the offenses that has been occurred, they are generally taking like 2 consecutive years of data. So if you see here, we have like the cases related to murder and attempted murder in 2019 and 2020. And here you can see the number of cases occurred in 2019 and the number of cases that are occurred in 2020. In the similar fashion, under this head, attempted murder, you have the number of cases and the number of cases in 2020 as well. And you can see the percentage. So what we have done is, for authenticity, we have taken this data and we have started performing our analysis. As the crime data is very sensitive information, I think like it is not published a detailed crime information anywhere else. As such, like we have taken only the data that is available in the public portal. So here, this is the crime that we have. This is one table, and if you come down, you have other table again with the same districts and with different crime offenses. If you see here, again, this is a third table, this is a fourth table. So you need to know how, from where you have to take the data, whether the data is authenticated or not, and how you use the data. So this is very crucial in any kind of analysis, not just with the crime, but whenever you are working with GIS, this is very crucial. Okay, so let's start with our demonstration. If you see here, the crime which I've shown you there, this is the data that we have created for 2018 and the percentage change, 2019 cases and the percentage change, 2020 cases and its percentage change. This is one crime head for 3 different years. In the similar fashion, I have listed out all the bodily crime information from that report itself for different heads here. And all this, whatever you are seeing here under various heads, they are all added up together to form like the total bodily crimes for year 2018, 2019, and 2020. In the similar way, we have other crimes like the property offenses. So somebody who are interested in a property to claim it illegally, they generally do some sort of offenses, and these are the heads under which a property offense has been occurring. And if you see, there are like various types of offenses even in the property offense as well. And similarly, the white collar crimes, so like cheating, the forgery complaints, and criminal breach of trust. There are like a lot of other things which comes under this particular category. And these are the total white collar jobs, white collar offenses that we have. And all together, your bodily crimes, property offenses, and white collar crimes is nothing but your total cognizable crime. So we have taken all this information from those report, and then we have plotted it, and based on this data we are going to perform our analysis. So let me explain you like how we have the data here. So if you see here, this bodily crime, cognizable crime, property offenses, this is the data that we have taken there, and which is as a CSV file. And then we have created one geodatabase. And if you see here, this is my geodatabase feature class. So I have the information that I require here for performing my analysis. This is just as a table that I have converted a CSV file here to a geodatabase file. And then I have joined with the district boundary information which I have, and then I have generated the bodily crime information here. Let me open the attribute table and then you will be able to relate it here. So this is all the information that I have. Total population, male population, household information, female population. So I have all this under my district boundary. And if you see here, these are the districts in Telangana. And these are the heads which we have just seen in that particular report, under which district, like what kind of offenses are there. And these are the various heads. You can see like murder cases 2018, murder cases 2019, murder cases 2020, attempted murder 2018, 2019, 2020. So in the similar way, you have all this information that has been captured into our ArcGIS environment. In the similar fashion, you have like property offenses. So these are all your property offenses here. And the similar way, we have like total white collar crimes in the all three of bodily crimes, property offenses, and white collar crimes we have taken as the cognizable offenses. So if you see here, so I have added the data here, and then I have symbolized it with based on the bodily crime information here. If you see here, So this is the bodily offenses which they have published in their report. So the same thing we are trying to get it into our maps here. So we have used the same kind of symbology to make you understand like how it is related. So if you see here, I have plotted this with the bodily crime cases which occurred in 2018. And if you see here, there are more crimes that occurred or represented in pink color, which means if the crimes, bodily crimes, are more than 1201 and above, then all the areas are plotted in pink color. And if the offenses are less between 801 and 1200, then they are shown in this lavender color. And if the crimes are between 401 and 800, then you have the offenses that are marked in this uh, yellow color. And then the blue ones are the areas like where you have less crime, which is like from 0 to 400. You can see all the bodily offenses that has been shown here on the plot. So what I've done is I have taken this and then I have symbolized the information. You can see here, these are the crimes, the range of the crimes which I have represented here. So similarly, I have taken for, this is for 2018. And if you see here, there are like more crimes that are occurring in Cyberabad, Hyderabad, Rachakonda, Warangal and Nalgonda areas. And there is less crime almost on the borders of the district in Nirmal, Adilabad, Komrambi, Masifabad, Narayanpet, Gadwal and all. So here in the similar way, I have plotted like 2019 information as well. And you can see here, even the crime is more in this 5 areas: Cyberabad, Hyderabad, Rachakonda, Warangal and Nalgonda. So even I plotted the same for 2020 as well. And if you see in 2020, there are more crimes that are in Cyberabad, Hyderabad, Rachakonda and Warangal. Okay. So now we will understand like whether our police stations, the number of police stations and the crimes are related or not. So if you see here, this is the line which you're seeing is the trend line, which is representing the trend between the total cognizable crimes between 2020 and the number of police stations in 2020. So if you see here, the data points, these are all like the blue ones, as you know, or the crimes with 0 to 400, and the yellow ones are from 401 to 800, and this lavender ones are from 801 to 1200, and the pink ones are crimes with more than 1201 and above. And if you see here, the data that is plotted is near to the trend line. Only very few points are very far off from the trend line. As I wanted to show you the data completely for the district, I have plotted it as such. But then generally these points are called as like outliers. Outliers means they are like far off from the line. So which means like because of the outliers, there can be an issue where your results would be different from the actual analysis. You have to perform actual analysis on the data points which are uh, almost near to each other. So here, if you remove the data points or the outliers in the data points, then you will have more accuracy in your relation. So nevertheless, I will tell you how this relation is now. So as we have seen, here, a perfect positive correlation is a relation which is across a trend line and which is a collection of your data points. And if you see here, it's a collection of data points which are across this trend line. And it shows a stronger relationship between your cognizable crime and the number of police stations. And if you see here, there is something called R square. R square is 0.69. What do you mean by this R square? Which means it shows the relationship, how much of relation you have with your cognizable offenses to the police stations. So yeah, I can say that the relationship is 69%. Relationship is there between the number of police stations and the cognizable crime. And for us to understand this, we can also run analysis. I will run the analysis in a while and I can explain you. So here I have plotted the bodily crimes that has been occurring in 2018, 2019 and 2020 in various colors. If you see the map here, you will understand. Okay. And if you see here, the trend, whether the crime is being increasing or the crime being reducing over the period of years. If you see here, so 2018 and 2019, they're almost the same for the major districts where the crime is occurring more. If you see here, from this graph, we can easily say that there are more crimes that are occurring in Hyderabad, Cyberabad, Rachakonda, Warangal, and Nalgonda. Even from this also we can say the same thing. Even from your map also we can say the same thing, because your map, which is highlighted in pink, is showing that the crime is occurring in these 5 major districts majorly. In the similar fashion, this is a different way of your representation of your data, where you can clearly see, for people who doesn't understand much about the maps, you can show them how your trend is, or how, where the crimes are more. So you can see Cyberabad, Hyderabad, Nalgonda, Rachakonda and Warangal are having more crimes here. And if you see the trend, how the crime is occurring over period of years, if you can see, almost 2018 and 2019 have the same kind of same number of bodily crimes that are being occurring. And these are almost same in this 5 districts, except in Hyderabad, but rest of our property offenses, and see like how our map is distributed. Even for our property offenses also, you can see like there are more property offenses occurring in Cyberabad, Hyderabad, Rachakonda and Warangal and Nizamabad. This is in 2018. And if you see here in 2019, you have more cases occurring in these areas, and in Warangal you don't have more property offenses in 2019, whereas Sangareddy has more offenses. In the similar fashion, if you see here for 2020, if you see, there are like more crimes that are occurring in Cyberabad, Hyderabad and Rachakonda. And if you see the pattern also, the areas which are next to the areas which has more crime are highlighted in this color, which is lavender color: Sangareddy, Siddipet, Warangal, Ramagundam, Nizamabad, Kamareddy. So these are the immediate areas to this place, or adjacent to the boundaries of this place, which has like less crime than this Cyberabad, Hyderabad and Rachakonda. But obviously there are more crimes with respect to the other districts. So, and what could be the reason for this? Maybe because of the economy, because in Cyberabad, Hyderabad and Rachakonda, these are all like more populated areas and the places where you have like more employment. As such, like more people live in this area, and there is also possibility of more crime in this area. And if you see here, the white collar offenses. So I'll show you in 2018 first. So if you see here, these are the like white collar offenses in 2018, and you can clearly see a pattern here. So the white collar offenses are occurring in this path: Cyberabad, Hyderabad, Rachakonda, Warangal, Karimnagar and Ramagundam. And towards here on the southeast, you have this Khammam. And if you see here in 2019, still you have like these areas are common in almost all the crimes, Cyberabad, Hyderabad, and Rachakonda. And even in 2020 also you have almost the same kind of pattern. If you can see here, you can correlate. So these are the areas which has like highest white collar crimes. And if you see the adjacent areas like Siddipet, Karimnagar, Suryapet, Khammam. So these are the adjacent areas which are having like less crime than these areas, but more crime than other areas. And if you see the connecting boundaries for Suryapet, Khammam, like Mahbubabad, Bhadradi, Kottagudem, and for Ramagundam, like if you see like Asifabad, you can see like there are like less crimes occurring when it is compared to the areas like Khammam, Suryapet, and all. So obviously you can say that the areas which has been generating more economy, or the areas which are having like more crimes, and when it is moving towards the end of the district boundary, you are having less crimes. You can see here, these are the white collar crimes for 2018, 19, and 20. If you see here in Cyberabad, Hyderabad, Rachakonda, and Warangal, you have the crimes, more white collar crimes. And if you see the trend here, the white collar crimes are very less in 2018 when compared to 2020 in Cyberabad. One of the reasons might be like because of the COVID impact, there were like a lot of organizations which has transformed from offline to online mode, and there can be like a lot of possibilities for the cyber crime attacks. And as such, there was a huge spike in the cyber crime, in the white collar crimes in the year 2020. So even if you see here, it is almost the same as 2019 here for Rachakonda, and even like for Warangal, uh, it has been reduced a bit than what it is in 2019. So coming to our cognizable offences, this cognizable offence is nothing but a total of our bodily crimes, property crimes, and white collar crimes in Telangana. And if you see here, the most cognizable offences are occurring in the places Cyberabad, Hyderabad, Rachakonda, Warangal, and Ramagundam. And why these are the areas which has more crime is because of the economy that is being generated in all these areas. But you can also question like why Ramagundam is the area like which is far off from Warangal is still having a lot of cognizable offences is because of the economy that is being generated by Ramagundam area, where there are like a lot of uh, coal mines that has been generating a lot of income here. And uh, because of that, when there is more economy that is being generated, there is also more crime that is being generated in the other areas. So let us understand how the pattern is by running some sort of analysis here. So I'm taking the crime data. And if you see the input field, this is the numeric field that you have to give, either any kind of crime heads or crime rate, victims. You can give any kind of numeric field. So I wanted to give the total cognizable offenses in 2018. And I'm going to generate the hotspot for this. So I'm going to take the nearest neighborhood method, which means like it takes the number of crimes occurring in the nearby places, and then it generates an output. So the number of neighborhoods that I will take is 4, and then I'm going to run this. So if you see here, you can see the areas like where there are like more crimes occurring, and you can clearly see the more number of crimes are occurring in these areas, Hyderabad and Rajakonda and Nalgonda. The crimes are more. That is where you can see that hotspot has been generated for these areas and has been very high in these areas. Whereas this other areas which are in light gray color are not significantly impacted with the crime. These are the areas which has like a more impact, where there are like more crimes that have been occurring. So let me go back to the geoprocessing tools, and then let me run one autocorrelation model, which is spatial autocorrelation, global Moran's law. So if you see here, I'm going to take the input of the crime information, and I'm going to take the cognizable crime for 2019 cases, and I wanted to generate a report. Okay, and then so I can run this report and I can show you the information. So if you see here, I've generated a spatial autocorrelation report here. And if you see here, there are like different values that has been given here. And if you see, when we run an autocorrelation report, generally we will understand the relationship and the pattern of the data in that particular crime. So if you see here, if your data is scattered like this, which means the data is distributed and the data points are scattered. So dispersed relationship here. And if you see, it is like the random, if the data points are random. But here we can find it a more significant method, and we can find it clustered. That is the reason you have seen the cluster that is being formed here in our earlier case. So I will explain you more of this. You can see here. So here it is measuring the spatial autocorrelation based on feature locations and attribute values using the global Moran's I statistic. So if you have seen here in our autocorrelation, it has clearly said that it is forming cluster, which means it has taken into the spatial aspect into the consideration, as well as the number of crimes also into consideration, and then it has generated as a clustered report, which means the relationship is stronger, and then you have a significant understanding of where there are more crimes occurring here. And so if you see here, the p-value is very less and the z-score is more. So normally when your p-values are less and z-scores are more, then it is a significant relationship, and you can take this into consideration. Okay. So now you understood like how we have collected the data. We have collected the data using our data that we have taken from here in Crime Telangana State Crime Records Bureau, and then we have prepared the required data that is used for our analysis. So once we have the data, we have plotted the data, and then we have examined like where the crime is occurring more, where the crime is occurring less, and we have evaluated the model by running some analysis like the spatial autocorrelation and the scatter plot to find out the relationship between the variables, and then now we have like solid understanding like where we have to deploy more resources and where the crime is occurring more. So as such, we have run hotspot analysis and spatial autocorrelation analysis, and we found out our results. So this will obviously help the decision makers to take